Hi everyone, and welcome back to Science with Sarah. Today we'll be talking about diet-induced obesity. Let's get started. So, some scientists think that obesity is not merely a problem of calories in versus calories out. They've shown that low-calorie diets do not work in the long run, and that's in part because when you eat that way, hunger hormones like ghrelin go up and satiety hormones like leptin go down. So I agree that the calorie in versus calorie out is not valid when it's taken alone because the human body doesn't just rely on that. Rather, the key is what you eat and how the food you give your body and cells affects them as a whole, as you'll see in my next video on management. So, what are the stats? The CDC reports that 42.4% of American adults were obese from 2017 to 2018. What I think is a super important metric is that from 2015 to 2016, almost 20% of American children and teenagers from the ages of 2 to 19 years old were obese, and the prevalence is more common among Hispanics and non Hispanic Blacks. The graph here shows the trends reported from 2015 and 2016 since 1999. These rates are climbing every year. Another point is that although not all people that are obese have type 2 diabetes, obesity increases the risk of developing the disease by 80%, which is quite a large number. Overall, for obesity, the trends are rising, and it's important that we slow this down and bring this number down. As I mentioned, obesity puts you at a greater risk for type 2 diabetes, but also for heart disease, high blood pressure, arthritis, sleep apnea, and some types of cancer, as well as stroke. So, what are the causes of obesity? Although the causes of obesity are still ambiguous, diet induced obesity could biologically result from many triggers, such as inflammation, gut microbiome, or insulin resistance, among other things. But it's important to remember that different foods impact our body in different ways. So, to understand diet induced obesity, you need to understand the effect of foods on the body, which I will discuss in detail in my next video. Many scientists are beginning to see obesity not as a problem of lack of self restraint or willpower, but as a hormonal problem that is, for the most part, dependent on insulin. Scientists are divided on whether insulin resistance is the cause or the result of obesity, and it's still widely debated. The point is that they affect each other really strongly. To prove my point, some studies have been done in patients with diabetes, and what they find is that when you give patients insulin, they gain weight. But when you take it away, as would be seen in a patient with type 1 diabetes that does not receive insulin, they lose weight. So the thought process would be that insulin makes you gain weight, which makes sense since we know that insulin promotes fat storage. That would suggest that the key to solving obesity is not the amount of food you're putting in your body, which is important too, though, because overeating can also promote fat storage, but is actually to lower insulin. And as I mentioned, I will give you advice on how to do that in my next video. So, does the gut have a role in promoting diet induced obesity? And the answer to that is yes. So, another point I want to raise is the increasing importance of the gut microbiome in diet induced obesity. The gut is central to this because it is thought to be a source of immune stimulation to fat cells and may be largely contributing to the chronic circulating pro inflammatory cytokines in the blood and the local inflammation in visceral fat that's observed in obesity, both of which worsen insulin resistance by interfering with signaling from the insulin receptor, as I mentioned in my video on insulin resistance. These inflammatory factors are also high in the intestine itself and are thought to cause the intestinal barrier to weaken and leak some bacterial products into the blood, which in turn increases inflammation and insulin resistance. With the foods that induce obesity being eaten and digested in the gut, there's also a change in the microbiome itself as a result of food called dysbiosis. There will typically be an increase in the bacteria that take advantage of us and a reduction in those that help us and do important things for our bodies. These changes in bacteria result in increasing triglyceride storage in the liver and the fat, insulin resistance, and inflammation. The changes in the body that are seen from a diet that promotes obesity through worsening insulin sensitivity are really key to starting to reduce obesity. Luckily, we know today how different foods affect insulin and blood sugar levels, and that will become essential to help people lose weight, feel better, and become more insulin sensitive. Make sure you watch my next video that will mainly be on nutritional approaches for these conditions. See you next time. Thanks for watching.